Hello, and welcome to the Be Your Own Dang Hero podcast. I'm your host, Pauline McKinney. I am so thrilled you're here with me. I can't wait to dive into this next episode titled You Did What? Have you ever made a decision that when you started to tell people about it sounded so insane that they asked you to explain yourself? That they were like, why would you do that? And then proceeded to tell you all of the reasons why that decision you're making didn't make sense to them. And yet you still felt like it was right, like compelled, like almost drawn to do something. I'm pretty sure we all have at least one of those stories in our lifetimes if we've ever really tried to make a bold move in life. And so I'll share one of my stories with you around insane decisions that ended up working out. It was like 100 years ago when I graduated college, and I had just gotten a job, which already was a huge accomplishment because the tech bubble had burst right when I graduated, and people were like, "Good luck getting a job." And I magically got a job with the Department of Defense. I was really lucky. It was the most stable job you could possibly ask for. I mean, a guaranteed at least 20 years for the rest of my life. I was set. I had a stable job. It paid well. I was around my family, my friends, and I left all of that to move to Chicago. I had an online boyfriend and I decided to move to Chicago and see what happens. I did what? Yeah, I did that. I had no logical explanation, but I felt incredibly pulled and I felt like it was something I just needed to explore. And what I love about this is that if you've ever made one of these decisions yourself, that has been you being lured into the call to adventure. You answered the call via the second way, which is being enticed, being lured by something magnetic. If you recall from last week and the week before, we talked about when the cheat code stopped working and sort of the end of normal. That's the first way that you can enter the hero's journey. The second way is this way we're going to talk about today. And the third way is really a sort of a conscious decision, and we can talk about that as well. But let's talk about this like call to adventure via enticement, shall we? Yeah, so that's really depending on what journey map you're looking at, this is really the first or second step within this hero's journey. You have an ordinary world for your hero. Then you either have an end of normal where something happens, like something collapses and the door is shut on your normal world, or you get a call to an adventure, and the call to an adventure can look like meeting someone new, getting a new opportunity out of the blue, something calling you that you just have to pursue because you feel it and it makes no sense. It's like the people who quit law school to become actors. That is the call to adventure via being lured. And in classical myths, it's always going to be a story about a knight or a hero who is on the path, and then something happens, like a maiden or a goddess, tempts him, and he follows her into the forest, and then something crazy happens, and he's suddenly on a new adventure. Like that's how it happens in like some of those more traditional stories. And I'm going to apologize in advance for the pop culture references I'm about to give you. I live with two teenage boys and I don't get out much to watch other things. I don't, for whatever reason, whenever I'm making my show notes, I can't think of any other examples like in literature. And obviously I've read a lot of books and I don't remember them. So please forgive me for these references in advance, but I'm going to use them because they work. So some pop culture references that you may recognize this exact pattern, this exact story playing out is my old friend Nacho Libre, who was in fact lured, enticed into becoming a famous wrestler for his orphanage by the panache and the glamour and the excitement of the world of wrestling. And so he wanted to be a wrestler. He wanted that glamour and he pursued it. He was called to it by being lured in. Then you have the Minecraft movie where the main character, I think his name is Steve. Please forgive me if I don't remember that. But he's lured in, he's enticed out of his normal life by the call to adventure by going into the mining caves. And then you have the example of Alice in Wonderland, where Alice is so bored with her regular life. She sees this rabbit in a hurry. She decides to follow him down the rabbit hole. She's enticed. And you also have the modern example with the Matrix, where you have Neo following the white rabbit into the nightclub, right? And those are all examples of this second way of being called into adventure. And that is this idea of like something pulling you in. So I just I have to find out. I have to know. It's not explainable. And briefly, I'll cover the third way. The third way is really a conscious decision to do this. And I like to think of it as like the milestones, that you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I know I'm going to come out a changed person. A big boot camp that you're about to take on, like a fitness boot camp or like some kind of like container of transformation. That's a call to adventure in a conscious way. Getting married, going to college, having a baby, your life is going to change in some way. You're going to come out a different person. You just don't know yet, but you know that you're doing it and it's happening. That is the third sort of call to adventure, and it begins the whole journey. I love this Joseph Campbell quote for this part of the journey, this call to adventure, this place where you're thinking about embarking on this, or the door closes and now you're faced with like a decision. And he says, we must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. I mean, wow. That's so true, right? It's like you have to let go. And a lot of this is around leaping into the unknown. And I'm going to go into sort of this act 3 and talk about the deeper meaning of this, because once I realized this, it was so big. It was really for me realizing that whenever you're at a fork in the road and you're feeling called to something new, but it's on the other side of something that's unknown and it's scary, it's really a battle between your head and your heart. Your head wants to keep you safe. It wants you to stay the same. It doesn't want to mix things up. And your heart wants to grow. It wants to feel alive. It wants to be out there on the adventure that's calling you. And in order to receive the bigger thing that is calling your name, you have to let go. We all have these attachments that we create inside of our known world, inside of our box of the everyday life. We have our routines, we have the stable jobs, we have the people who we are very used to. And we have to be willing to surrender the comfort of what we have today. We have to almost imagine like a closed fist. That's us when we're thinking about taking this adventure. And the only way to receive the bigger life, the fulfillment, the huge change, the amazing rewards, is we have to almost open our hand and face it up to receive. And that is scary. It's scary as heck, because it's that whole cliche, right? The devil you know versus the devil you don't. So many of us are so afraid of what's out there in the unknown that we'd rather stay with the job that we, when we're being honest, don't really love, but we make a lot of money. Or we stay comfortable in that relationship that, when we're being honest, doesn't really light a fire under us, but it's okay. And the ultimate battle here is really the battle of the heart and the head. And are you willing to give up the safety of what you have so that you can pursue the not guaranteed of the unknown. And here's the thing. Something that I have learned is that when you dare to go out into the unknown, a lot of times, and I'm going to speak from my own experience, I can't speak for you or anyone else, but it's worked out in ways that have been so much bigger and more beautiful than I could have ever anticipated. And that's the funny part is it's like we want to go into the unknown, but we want to be able to dictate the terms. We want to say, well, this has to happen by here, or I'm not going to do this, or this has to happen in this way. But the universe is so much more intelligent and creative than we could ever be. And it was never my plan to move to Chicago and meet my husband and end up in this wonderful life that I have today. I could never in a million years have dreamed up this life for me. But it all started with that decision to move to Chicago for a relationship that never was supposed to work out. And it was exactly the right move for me. And I'm sure when you think back, you can think of the same kind of experience that you've had. So I would say that when you're at this fork, that it's okay to be conflicted. It's very normal. And you've done this before. And I would remember that the times that you have dared to jump into the unknown, ask yourself, what has happened when I've dared to do that? What has become of it? Have I ever regretted it? Because you probably have all the wisdom you need inside of you. And I'm going to give you some of my resources and tools that I use. There's a book that I love by an author who is a mystic. And I just recently, like literally 5 minutes ago, found out that he actually, there's a Netflix documentary about how cultish his whole following was. And it was like really controversial. I haven't seen it, but I saw a headline. But I'm going to give it to you anyway, because I really like this book and you can decide for yourself. The author is Osho. He's a mystic from, I don't remember, a very long time ago. And apparently he had a cult. But he wrote a book called Courage, The Joy of Living Dangerously. And it is a great book that for me changed my perspective around how I look at the unknown, how I work with the unknown. And in this book, he talks about how all of our fears in life really come down to one main fear. We're always scared of the unknown, which is actually the fear of death, which is the greatest unknown. And that the best way to prepare for the greatest unknown, i.e., our death, it requires you to consciously and courageously jump into the unknown so that by the time the greatest unknown comes, you're prepared. And I kind of loved that because it was a very experiential way to have courage. Like I didn't want to just conceptually know courage. I wanted to really like feel courage. And it's through that that I have learned how to systematically break my comfort zone and choose things that are unknown to me in the face of fear. So his book is a great way to change your relationship to the unknown and your fear. So I will link that as one of the resources. And I'm also going to like ask you to think about these questions. These are the questions that I like to ask myself whenever I'm sort of embarking on a fork in the road and I don't know which way to go. The first question is, when you close your eyes, which choice do you think you might regret making? Like, is this a once in a lifetime opportunity? And if you don't take it, you will regret it. And you know that. And you just are scared to make the choice? Or is this like, no, I could do this again. I could make this happen later. It doesn't have to be right now. And you know the truth when you really close your eyes and allow yourself to be honest without your head getting in the way. The second question is, if it doesn't work out, what's the worst that can happen? And to follow on to that is there anything I can do to mitigate that? The third question is, what if I make the safe choice? How will that feel for me right now? Would you feel incredibly okay, disappointed, resentful? And I just want to tell you that there is no wrong choice. You make the choice that's right for you because the truth is, I don't always choose the unknown, and life comes in seasons. You know what's right for you. And this is just a way to sort of work through that and understand that you are being called to a greater adventure. And it's okay to refuse the call. That is actually the topic of the next step. It'll be in 2 weeks, I think, refusal of the call. And that's a big one. It's juicy and it's normal. So let's normalize refusing the call when it's not the right time. When you've got a lot of obligations and responsibilities, you can't just quit on people who kids that you have to help and feed and take care of, or parents that you need to be there for. So I totally get it. But whenever the chance comes and you're thinking about it, these are some great questions to ask yourself. And maybe if it's just the fear that's in the way, maybe it's your time. And so that's all this is a framework with some ideas and tools to shift your perspective. And so I would just ask you, and I'd love some engagement if you have a moment or you feel like sharing, are you being called to something right now? Are you on the precipice of making a you did what kind of decision? Or is there something that's calling you that you are struggling with right now? Or has your cheat code stopped working and you're sort of at this decision point and you're not sure what to do? Yeah, feel free to share. Also, I am experimenting with a new idea. For Mother's Day, I got these incredible archetype kind of tarot cards, and they're so fun to work with. And I've been doing like these little mini readings for my family, and they've been so on point. These cards are incredible. And so I want to play with like trying out giving readings for other people. And if you're interested in getting a hero's journey reading with these archetype cards for free, check out the link in the episode description and go to the link and you can sign up and I'll contact you and we can do a totally free session in exchange for a testimony or your feedback. I would love that. It would be so much fun. And yeah, I hope you click the link if it sounds like something that's like would be fun for you. Thank you so much for showing up with me today and listening. I hope this helped you in some way. And man, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and that it's an adventure. Have a great day.